and gentlemen, welcome to the future. My name is Zach Gardner. I'm the chief architect at Keyhole Software, and a few months ago I set out off on a little bit of a journey. I wanted to learn more about generative AI, not just from people that had opinions on it, but people that had opinions on it because they've been working on it year after year, not just necessarily in generative AI, but in AI and machine learning a little bit more broadly. The good news for you all watching this video cast is I was able to actually find a lot of these people. And crazy enough, some of them are actually located near me in Kansas City. On today's episode, I'm welcoming Tapan Bhatt, who's the founder and CEO of TeraCrunch. Tapan, thank you very much for agreeing to be on the program today.
Thank you for having me here. Appreciate it.
So my disclaimer, I was put out at the very beginning, just so just we're all on the same page. All views and opinions expressed in this program are the views and opinions of the participants and do not reflect any trade organizations or their employer. And now, talk about the fun stuff. So, Tapan, maybe start with what was your career path? How did you get started in technology? What was the genesis for your company, TeraCrunch? Let's begin there.
Sure. I think out of college, I finished my master's and decided to join corporate America, and soon found that's not something I would really enjoy long term. So decided to join a company in the Bay Area, which was, and they were doing some really cool, innovative stuff, leveraging data at that time. That's about 22 years ago. And I really fell in love with the energy of a small company and the amount of impact one can make. So I think I did one startup, and I decided we packaged and sold the company to a large corporation, and then I jumped onto the next one. And two in the East Coast, two in the West Coast, and four startups later, I decided to start TeraCrunch about 11 years ago. So high level, that's my journey. One common theme across all those companies was leveraging data in a meaningful, effective way. So all those companies were leveraging data in one way, shape, or form. And that also exposed me in terms of working with data scientists or statistical engineers, if you will, at that time. And so I learned about the power of data. I learned about what data scientists or statistics could do at that time, and decided to form TeraCrunch about 11 years ago. So that's how I came about this. And TeraCrunch, as you know, it's a AI machine learning solutions provider, and we've been doing this for about 10 plus years. And those years, we've built over 150 plus machine learning and AI solutions that are providing 5 to 40x ROI for our customers. So very excited about the future and what we have done so far.
Data, its power is definitely undervalued, and if you can do it right, the ROI is absolutely there. I'm curious if you could talk to me about. I went on your website. That's kind of how I got in contact with you. You guys have a lot of really interesting case studies. Healthcare is kind of my it's the thing that I care the most about. My mom's been a nurse for 40 years. I live and breathe healthcare. But I'm curious if you have any other interesting AI or machine learning case studies you can share from your time at TeraCrunch.
Yeah, I'll probably share a couple. Let's do one healthcare since we're talking about that already.
Yeah.
One really interesting case study, and this is something very close to my heart, is because we saved cancer patients' lives through this. Is basically putting wearable devices on patients' hand that are in stage 4, stage 3 cancer phase. So essentially, we're connecting with the EMR system to get patients' data. We're using generative AI to read doctors' clinical notes, which are in natural language. And then we're mixing that up with the data we get from patients' wearable devices. And then on top of that is an algorithm that we build that takes all this information, mixes machine learning and Gen AI, and then it basically predicts when a cancer patient will need an intervention before the need. So it's essentially flagging patients that may need an intervention tomorrow or maybe today evening or 3 days later or next week. And based on that, the physician or his staff would reach out to the patient proactively and try to see how they can prevent his declining health condition. So I think the beauty there was before Gen AI, it would have been tough to take all the natural language data and scan all that information and get trends and patterns from that data, mix that with the other data, which is already structured, and then prepare all these insights and flags. I think Gen AI made that really easy. And obviously, machine learning has already been there for a long time, but the addition of Gen AI made it even more powerful as an overall solution.
Very cool. I mean, one of the themes that I have kind of seen in talking with people is that generative AI and AI in general, it's a really powerful tool that enables you to connect your data to make realistic and impactful results, realistic decisions. Optimizing the time of the clinician, especially in healthcare, is something that I've heard a lot of people talk about. And you think about these people that go to medical school, they go into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and they're paid, an enormous amount of money from these hospitals because they're highly trained specialists. So having the ability, especially for oncologists, to be able to focus on the patients that have like the most acute needs, being able to help them not necessarily rank them, but be able to say like, all right, this is the patient I need to call today. This is the one I need to call tomorrow. This is the one I need to call next week. Not even necessarily having to have the patient directly intervene, but just having like the wearables, broadcasting the telemetry data like that. That's just a really cool use case for being able to make sure that the patients with the highest need, that you can kind of scale them to be the ones that get the most attention and the most insights. So that's
True,
really
and
cool.
this kind of extends to think of any other patient conditions, right? Could be strokes, could be kidney failures, could be something else. This extends to pretty much all disease types. And with value-based care that's coming up in the healthcare, which is going to be a big deal for everybody in the healthcare ecosystem, I think it's really important to make sure that patients are being seen at the right place at the right time and they're being cured effectively. So I think this kind of speaks to value-based care as well. So we're very excited about how we can take the solution that we've built and extend it to lots of other disease types and different players across the healthcare ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Yep, value-based care, accountable care organizations, population health management. You're talking my day to day at this point. This is what I live and breathe. So
That's awesome.
outside of healthcare, what are maybe some other interesting use cases that you've come across?
Um, I think customer service, AI chatbots, very popular. So think of chatbots as solving two major problems in terms of customer service. One, it provides very personalized information to the customers on their fingertips. So now instead of me having to call 800 number or talking to a bot which is not AI driven, I'm going to have to go through a lot of Q&A to get to a specific information. Instead, in this case, since the bot is developed on the knowledge base that is proprietary to that customer, meaning that client and all the customers of that client base, I think it's going to be a game changer because now the customers can go in, ask any questions, get very detailed, personalized information on their fingertip. And as a result of which, the customer happiness and their satisfaction scores have really gone up. One of the deployments we did recently, we saw the customer satisfaction scores go from 12% to 40%. So that's a huge benefit. And the second thing is, it's just a lot of time savings for customers. Instead of having to call or just wait, go back and forth. I think if a chatbot is built intelligently on a proprietary knowledge base of a client, I think it provides tremendous value to customers, and the customers get information very quickly and effectively, which in a way has a ripple effect on clients as well, because now clients don't have to spend that much time and effort in answering questions. They free up a lot of their resource time, which can be then used for other things. And then because it's all data driven now, they can glean a lot of insights and they can drive future innovations and they can drive improvements of their products and services as well. So that's a byproduct, but it's something that's very, very powerful as a result of this.
Hmm. One of the examples that I think of, at least here in Kansas City, is SelectQuote. I actually had their SVP of AI and Innovation, Dan Savino, on the program a couple weeks ago, and we were talking through their use case where they have a customer support line that people can call into. And it used to be that the wait times would just be so long that customers would end up just bailing. That's money that you're just leaving there on the table because you can't staff up. There's just only so many people that you could possibly train to be in these call centers to even answer the calls. But what if you were able to instead have a generative AI using natural language processing, be able to do a lot of the intake, be able to ask the customer, some questions, be able to get some insights from them, be able to keep them on the line so that when they do talk to the customer support rep, the amount of time that they have to actually spend human to human, you've cut that in half or maybe even cut that into a quarter of what it used to be. So you're able to double or quadruple your throughput, which then means that you can serve more customers. So like you're not only saving your customers time because they don't have to spend as long waiting, you're also increasing your revenue too. It's a no-brainer, honestly, for these kind of customer support use cases, just to be able to supplement and augment things that just are difficult to scale from a human standpoint.
True, and embedding machine learning in this can also provide enormous amount of trends and patterns that could be leveraged to cross-sell and upsell to the customers as well, which also, if it's done properly, it provides for a great customer service experience. As an example, a customer can ask a question that's related to a specific product. And if my machine learning tells me that this customer or other customers like him have benefited from these other products or these other services, given his demographics and given his behavioral trends and patterns, then the machine learning is going to provide those kind of recommendations, right? And then it's going to say, what about this or what about that product or service, which might be helpful for XYZ. And I think customers can then decide to take it or leave it. But at least now the customer knows that we offer or the client offers these kind of products and services. So it could be a good value add if it's done in a phased approach, whereby it's also doing sales and marketing on top of just providing customer service.
Mm-hmm. And I recall one of the things that we talked about when we were chatting over lunch at Q39, which, by the way, we're not being sponsored by Q39 for this program. I mean, if they want to send me some barbecue, like I'm not going to say no. So just so we're clear, that was not a paid advertisement. One of the things that I remember us talking about was ML ops, because like when we do an application development, back in the old days, we used to just build the code on our machine, FTP it onto some server, and then hope that everything was okay. But we've gotten automation, we've gotten in CI/CD, we've gotten the DevSecOps pipeline down. ML ops I see as like an emerging field that I think we're going to see a lot more of this year, because there's so much training that's involved. There's a lot of pipes, there's a lot of pieces that it takes to go from iteration to iteration. And then once you have your model in production, you need to be learning from it. You need to be able to do iterations on it. So I'm curious if you could talk about maybe some of your experience on ML ops. What are some of the considerations that people even need to have if they want to set up their own ML pipeline?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most overlooked topics, but one of the most important topics in the world of AI and machine learning. And so, first of all, what is MLOps, right? It's a set of practice that combines machine learning, DevOps, and data engineering to streamline and optimize an end-to-end machine learning lifecycle, right? So what you're doing there is you're basically making sure right on day one that you have a plan to deploy this in a production setup. And not only that, you're actually going to be monitoring and fine-tuning on a regular basis so you can see the ROI that you're hoping to see. Most of the times what happens, to your point, Zach, is when customers are developing a machine learning or Gen AI solution, they're not thinking about the whole life cycle. They're thinking about how do we build the best possible solution? And then the after fact thinking is how do we now move this into a production setup? And what happens as a result of that thinking, which is basically not thought through as one process, is that they're not communicating with their operations team, they're not communicating with their DevOps team, and therefore there's no streamlined process. And if the streamlined process is missing, then it's going to be more time consuming, it's going to be very costly, and most likely the governance and compliance could be impacted big time as well. So if this is all done properly, you're talking about streamlined development and deployment, to ensure smoother transition between dev and deployment stages. You're talking about enhanced model quality and performance as well, governance and compliance, and then cost efficiency.
Hmm. No, I dig it. I mean, one of the existential differences that I see between like DevSecOps and ML ops, if you're talking about companies like Facebook, like they are famous for being able to go to production multiple times a day with not even multiple, like like tens, if not hundreds of times a day with like little teeny tiny changes. Because application code, you can change one line and it's not going to affect everything else. So you're able to get a lot quicker throughput with things like ML ops, where you have these models that need to be trained off, just massive amounts of data, billions of parameters for output. I've always seen, at least when I've been researching this, the delay or the cycle time between when you do those trainings and when you can actually get into production, it's naturally larger. Unless we have this computer that just falls down from the sky and allows us to do just these massive computations within a fraction of a second, then we might be able to see sort of the expediting of the pipeline. But I'm curious if you have any insights as to like how long a MLOps pipeline would take, not just to construct, but once you've got all the pieces in place, how long does it actually take to go from stage to stage to stage? Is it a week? Is it a month? Not a year. I don't think we're talking years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, MLOps is the end-to-end process starts from day one, which is taking raw data and preparing it for machine learning and Gen AI, and then deploying it, fine-tuning it, and monitoring it, right, on a regular basis. We have a 22-step process, which is basically a well-articulated process of our machine learning operations. So that the 22-step process, typically depending on the complexity of the data, which is the veracity of the data and the volume of the data, it might take us anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks to finish that process. And like I said, we have this 22-step process. So every step has its own checks and balances. And one step is over, we finish our checks and balances and move on to the next one. And I think it helps us get through all these stages quickly. And because it's well documented and well thought through process, we know where, if something is not working, we know exactly where to go and fix it. I'll tell you one more thing. Out of 6 projects, we get 4 projects are coming in because customer tried to build something in-house, but they could not figure out a way to operationalize the whole machine learning aspect of it. And as a result of it, they have to throw all the time and effort down the drain. So I think MLOps is, one of the most important topics, but also overlooked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. If you go slower and you go out and find people that have done this before, you might end up saving a lot more money than if you tried to do this yourself. We see that all the time with Microsoft Access applications. Like those are a godsend to us because you already have a use case, you already have a budget for it, and its failure is a product of its own success because it got to be too big and then it is not scalable. So it's good to hear that this happens in other fields as well. Before we kind of wrap up, anything else that you want to bring up? Anything that we haven't talked about? Any ground that we should have covered that we just neglected to? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I think the power of Gen AI is real, and this is not going to be another pie in the sky. This is not going to be another um, cutting edge technology that's trying to look for a problem. In fact, this is one of those few technologies that I've seen evolve since dot-com boom that is fundamentally going to change how we all operate. And what I mean by that is Gen AI has so many applications for pretty much all industries across all different domains, whether it's sales or marketing, operations, finance, across the most senior level person to the most junior level person in an organization. Everybody's going to be leveraging Gen AI in some way, shape, or form, whether they like it or not. It's going to happen. And essentially, what's going to happen is AI and software is going to converge, meaning AI is going to be embedded within a lot of existing software products and services and software stack. And as a result of that, it's going to be becoming pervasive very soon and very quickly. As a result of which, we all have to start upskilling and improving the ways we have interacted with programs and software so far, because now AI is going to be embedded in all of that. And if you can start upskilling our AI skills, I think it's going to be one of the most valuable things for all the folks in the world. A lot of people think that AI is going to steal jobs. And that's not the case. In fact, AI is going to be a tool that's going to be available to all of us, but it's going to be stealing jobs from people that actually know AI better from people that don't know AI. So one of the biggest problems right now, especially in larger organizations, is because AI is growing so fast, people cannot skill themselves with AI as quickly as they should be. So 4 out of 5 employees, and this is based on stats, and this is based on Gartner research and a lot of research that's out there. 4 out of 5 employees are currently um, going down in terms of their upskilling. And the one employee that's actually doing the right things is getting himself trained on AI. And the remaining 4 will be replaced by other four that actually have AI knowledge. And I think that's going to be a trend going forward. And so people should stop thinking about AI stealing their jobs, more about them getting skilled with AI.
Agreed. I'm seeing very much the same thing. All right, this has been fun. This has been good. Where can people go to learn more about you, learn more about your company? Are you on MySpace still? Does MySpace even exist anymore? Where can people go to find out more about you?
They can go on the website, TeraCrunch.com. They can find me on LinkedIn, Tapan Bhatt, or they can just shoot me an email anytime. My personal email is tbat@terracrunch.com.
Very cool. Well, Tappin, it's been real. I hope to, share some barbecue with you again soon. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in the future.